rarely am I confused about how to start this show. Two events transpired yesterday that have my attention. Massive, massive news in the National Football League. The NFL free agency period starts, and it's about as crazy and as news breaking as it's like it was the NBA free agency all over again, with NFL owners cutting checks and my Kansas City Chiefs signing the MVP of the Super Bowl, Kenneth Walker, running back, Seattle Seahawks, 25 years old, in his prime. He's everything the Chiefs need. He's everything Patrick Mahomes needs. That news broke right at the end of yesterday's show. And I'm like, holy cow. And then the next thing you know, Mike Evans is going to the San Francisco 49ers. He's leaving Tampa. That's incredible. John Hadley's blowing me up. Baltimore center Lindenbaum, he's signed with Oakland for $20 million a year. Jason, don't you understand how crazy this is or how big of news this is? He's the best free agent in football. The Rams steal the Chiefs' entire secondary, basically. They're going for it. The Super Bowl's in Los Angeles this year. NFL free agency has been mind-blowing. But then there was something else that caught my attention. And maybe it's only my mind was blown. But Adam Silver, the commissioner of the National Basketball Association, the guy that grovels at the feet of every NBA player and just wants to be cool with the culture, he canceled Magic City night in Atlanta. He canceled strip club night in Seattle. I just had to clap for Adam Silver. I just had to celebrate Adam Silver. He did the right thing. He showed a pair. This Magic City deal, I watched a video this weekend where Michelle Beadle was going off on Luke Cornett for complaining about this strip club night in Atlanta and how dare he. And I'm just looking at all the momentum seeming to go in the direction of, hey, Whitlock, what are you doing? You're an old man. Of course there should be a strip club night at an NBA arena. Then I look, one of the rappers from Atlanta that goes on all the talk shows and is supposed to be this intellectual Killer Mike, grown man calling himself Killer Mike, a rapper. You know, these rappers all got silly names, but he puts out, he's all upset because Adam Silver has canceled stripper night with the Atlanta Hawks. Puts out a statement, Magic City has been a black-owned business for over 30 years in my community. That community has given entertainers that happen to be dancers a place to entertain. Those women have went on to become business owners, moms, wives, and more. I didn't think Adam Silver had the balls to stand up to the idiocy, and he did. But I do think the idiots are only going to get louder. That's Magic City. That's Killer Mike, a leader, a spokesman for Atlanta, complaining that stripper night got canceled for the Atlanta Hawks. This world is retarded. That somehow, what did he say? These women have went on to become business owners, moms, wives, and more. Yes, strippers have post-stripper lives. Congratulations. We all do. And strippers get knocked up. Yes, they do. What a surprise. Many of them go on to be moms while still stripping. Yes, they do own weed businesses and maybe they sell Avon or Mary Kay. I don't know or care. Yes, many of them get married. Congratulations. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. That's a good thing. But as if the fact that post-stripping, they have a career, somehow that's supposed to justify the Atlanta Hawks, an NBA franchise that is supposed to put on a family-friendly event. somehow that they have to celebrate Magic City, and now somehow there's been a crime done because Adam Silver and the NBA said, man, this ain't right for our brand. This is silly. So I'm confused about, what's most important. And so I'm going to keep it real. We're going to start today's show with Bucky Brooks and talk about the realness of what transpired in the NFL, the player movement, my belief that, the Chiefs got Patrick Mahomes just what he needed. Other people's belief that the Rams have now become a super team and the Super Bowl is going to be in Los Angeles and they're going all in. I'm going to ask Bucky Brooks about my contention that with the addition of Max Crosby, all the pressure now is on Lamar Jackson. There's far more pressure on Lamar Jackson than there is on Josh Allen. We'll get his opinion on what we talked about yesterday and what I still think is the biggest story in all of free agency, and that's the pressure now on Lamar Jackson and no excuses. And then I'll bring in Jay Skap Attack, and we'll talk about Magic City night being canceled in NBA, how surprised Jay is, how surprised I am, what it means for the National Basketball Association. Is sanity? Is this what that means when they cancel Magic City night? Is sanity returning to sports? It's going to be a great edition of Fearless. Hope you enjoy it. Hope you stick with us. Give me a moment. I want to make sure that those of you listening over Apple or listening and watching over Spotify, you guys need to do the right thing right now, and that is hit the 5-star rating. Give us that 5-star rating on Apple and Spotify. It helps us fight the algorithms, helps us grow the show. We need that help. The other thing you can do, you got to support our sponsor, Relief Factor. And don't buy Relief Factor as a favor to me, even though if that's the reason you do it, great. The real reason you need to do it as a favor to yourself. I told you all yesterday that I have changed up my workout routine and I'm walking the hills in my neighborhood, and I've never needed Relief Factor more. I've been killing myself going up these hills, and Relief Factor's helping me get through it, helping me fight through it. Yesterday, I did not want to get out and exercise. I said, dang it, I got this Relief Factor. I'm going to continue to work out and work through this soreness. And lo and behold, I've gotten through it. I did my walk yesterday up these hills. It went well. I'm feeling pretty good. You can try Relief Factor for just $19.95. They got a 3-week quick start program. 70% of the people that try the 3-week quick start program with Relief Factor, they circle back and re-up because they're already experiencing the benefits. Relief Factor is a 100% drug-free daily supplement that helps fight that inflammation pain that is causing you to compromise. I can't do this and I can't do that. Yes, you can. If I can walk these hills in my neighborhood an hour at a time on this concrete, and I've done it now, I think this is 8 straight days. I've pretty much abandoned my Stairmaster. I want that pain and suffering. I really do, because it lets me know that I'm working hard. And thank you, Relief Factor, for being a partner and getting me through it. You guys can visit Relief Factor at relieffactor.com. That's relieffactor.com. Or you can call 1-800-4-RELIEF. That's 1-800, the number 4-RELIEF. Tell them I sent you when you go there. Thank you, Relief Factor, for helping me get through it. One last thing before we get to Bucky Brooks. Those of you that really, really want to help, go to FearlessMission.com and become a subscriber to everything we're doing here at Blaze TV. Use my promo code FEARLESS at checkout. You can save $20 on your membership. It's important. If you want to support me and what we're doing here at the show, FearlessMission.com. Become a subscriber to Blaze TV. When we come back, Bucky Brooks is going to join me. We'll talk about this wild NFL free agency. Next!
All the news is out there. He owes jewelers money. There's back paid rent for real estate in New York. It's clear that he is now part of the no money team, which is very ironic. And why is he doing this? Well, there's a great line, one of the greatest lines I've ever seen in any movie. Go back to the original Rocky. Rocky and Adrian are going on their first date inside the ice rink, and she asks him, well, why do you fight? And Rocky says, because I can't sing or dance. You can't sing or dance.
I can't imagine making as much money as Floyd Mayweather did and being broke at 47 and having to come back and fight. I can't. The guy, he had to have made $500 million.
But wait a minute. Did we forget the words of the philosopher Pat Ewing? We make a lot of money, but we spend a lot of money.
As the NFL turns, starring quarterbacks Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, with special appearances from Commissioner Roger Goodell and coaches Andy Reid, Mike Tomlin, and the Harbaughs. Brought to you by the global elites.
All right, as promised, let's get to Bucky Brooks. One of the most incredible days in NFL free agency, at least for those of us that are Chiefs fans, for those of you that celebrate. Bucky, former NFL player, former NFL scout, works for the NFL Network. I think getting Kenneth Walker was the biggest story of the day for my Kansas City Chiefs, getting that running back situation solved, but I have a bias. What's the headline from a very busy day in NFL free agency?
Just the aggressiveness of everybody making moves. Like, for so long, general managers used to sit on their hands and not want to give out that money. But we're seeing on the heels of the New England Patriots spending big money last year and parlaying that into a Super Bowl appearance, that people are not, afraid to write big checks. And let's talk about the Kansas City Chiefs, because everyone has already kind of poured dirt on the Chiefs' grave and said that, oh my gosh, the Wicked Witch is dead. But to me, this is what the team has needed for the last 3 or 4 years. They've needed a big-time running back to alleviate the pressure on Pat Mahomes, to force defenses to play them differently. And what they've done in adding Kenneth Walker, they have someone that can score from anyone on the field, someone that's good enough to lure the extra defender in the box to create more one-on-one opportunities on the outside. And with Eric Bieniemy as the offensive coordinator, even though he won't be the play caller, I just believe you're going to see a renewed commitment to the running game, which is going to allow that passing game to get back to being explosive like it was back in the day.
Only 25 years old. I just love this. I thought that the Chiefs were picking up extra draft picks because they were going to try to move up and get Jeremiah Love. That was probably a pipe dream. But now getting someone with experience, the reigning Super Bowl MVP, I mean, this is I don't know if you could have done a better move. And they still have those draft picks. They signed Travis Kelce to 1 more year. They are really going for it in 2026.
Yeah, and I think some of the moves that they made in terms of trading away Trent McDuffie so they didn't have to drop big money on him. They cut Jawan Taylor. They're trying to kind of reshuffle the deck to put themselves in a position to make a run at it. And people don't want to hear it, but as long as they have number 15, they have a chance. And 15 gives them a chance. But because he's coming off a knee injury, you just got to make sure that you can balance out the attack a little more in case they have to play differently than the way that they played before. With a running back in tow and Kenneth Walker, now you can utilize a little more ball control, dominate time of possession, and have Pat Mahomes maybe win the game in the end. What we do know is defensively, they're always going to be a team that turns the opponent over. They always play for splash plays, but offensively, maybe they can dictate the terms a little differently because the running game will allow them to be a little more balanced.
A lot of speculation in Chiefs land that they will make a move for Trent Williams if he gets out of San Francisco. Do you see that happening?
You know, it's been contentious for Trent Williams in San Francisco. The problem that you have with Trent Williams, he's 38 years old, but he wants big money. He's still playing at a high level. So where can you kind of find that happy ground to the middle ground to be able to pay him what you want, to respect him for what he's done, but to also understand that he's in the twilight of his career? If the Chiefs are able to get that, man, you talk about a premier offensive tackle, a guy who has been the gold standard at left tackle for years, someone who would actually bring a little nastiness to that offensive line. We'll see how it plays out. I know this, the San Francisco 49ers are not prepared to play without Trent Williams because you remove him from their lineup, they don't have a blue chip player on their front line. I think they would be foolish to let him walk out the door, but we'll see. Money makes us do crazy things sometimes.
Is the dispute in San Francisco just about money, or is there something else driving Trent Williams?
Like right now, like everything that's been reported is just about the contract, the money. He is a highly decorated player. He wants to continue to be paid at that level that he's played at. But man, we're talking about 38 years old at tackle. It's different than Tom Brady being a 40-ish quarterback. We're talking about a premier position where you're expecting him to be able to snuff out the elite pass rushers. He's been able to do it, but at some point, you have to anticipate the fall off. Where does that compensation kind of come in to anticipate the drop off that will eventually happen for a player at his age?
All right, I've obviously got my Chiefs bias. You probably got a little bit of a Chiefs bias having played there. Number two, what franchise or what player was the most interesting move beyond what the Chiefs did?
I would say the move, everyone was talking about Malik Willis and where Malik Willis was going to end up. Malik Willis going to the Miami Dolphins, 3 years, $67 million for a quarterback that only has 6 starts. And in the first half of his career, those first 2 seasons in Tennessee, didn't look great. Now, he looked terrific with the Green Bay Packers, but you don't get the Packers play call that you don't necessarily have their weapons. I'm curious to see how John Eric Sullivan and Jeff Hafley build this out to allow Malik Willis to have success. I love the kid, positive, upbeat kid. I love what they're doing in Miami in terms of trying to change the culture because I believe they needed to have more of a hardline culture, kind of like the Miami Heat does in that city. But now you have a humble quarterback taking over. Can you surround him with the right pieces, and can you exhibit the patience that you need to watch him grow into this role as a QB1?
$45 million in guaranteed money, $67 million overall, as you say. You think that's still maybe a little on the high side? I thought that seemed kind of affordable for what quarterbacks are getting paid, and I know his resume is limited.
Yeah, no, look, it's reasonable. They, in fact, got him on one of the Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold type deals. Now you have to find a way to make sure that he plays at the level that you believe he can play. Some of that is going to be Bobby Slowick trying to understand what works for him. Here's the thing that works in their favor, though. Jeff Hafley and John Eric Sullivan got a chance to watch him work every day for 2 years. Jeff Hafley, the defensive coordinator, former defensive coordinator for the Packers, got a chance to coach against him in mini camps and training camp and understand this is what he does well. These are the struggles. Let's make sure we build our offense to cater to his strengths. If they do that, he can be fine. But every quarterback has a struggle when they go from being the backup to the starter. How do they help him navigate those struggles, and how do they build a team to really put him in the best position? That will be the key for the Miami Dolphins going forward.
You mentioned Baker Mayfield, and that made me think of Mike Evans leaving Tampa to go to San Francisco. Kind of surprised me. I mean, he's had a hell of a career in Tampa. He's a little long in the tooth for a wide receiver. San Francisco make the right move here, paying Mike Evans?
Now, it's the right move, but it's a risky move because you're talking about a receiver that is over 30 years of age. That said, when we think about the potential lineup that the Niners can trot out, Mike Evans on the outside, George Kittle at tight end, Christian McCaffrey in the backfield, that is a trio that is very difficult to defend. McCaffrey commands a lot of attention as a running back, as a runner and receiver. That means that you're now dealing with one-on-one coverage on the outside with Evans and Kittle. If you sit back and play soft to take away the passing game, then you got Christian McCaffrey, who is able to really carve you up as a runner. The key is health. And in San Francisco, they've had a tough time keeping people healthy. But if those three guys are healthy, the San Francisco 49ers are a juggernaut offensively.
Mike Evans will be 33 this season, only played 8 games last year. Obviously, Christian McCaffrey's had some injury problems. George Kittle's probably in his 30s probably as well. They're banking on some. Yeah, George Kittle will be 33 this season as well. That seems high risk, and their defense has had a lot of injury problems, and Nick Bosa is no longer probably a superstar. Is San Francisco a championship team?
If healthy, they're a championship team, but there are a lot of conditions and stipulations that we have to put on it. Everyone we rattled off are over 30 years of age, and it's hard to be an old team in the National Football League and win. That said, if they're all available, yes, they can go toe to toe with anybody. We saw this year, and I felt like Kyle Shanahan did his best coaching job in taking a undermanned team and getting to the point where they were competing for the number one seed in the NFC going into the last week of the season. He has to make sure that they have young replacements in place to be able to jump in if those older guys get hurt. So a lot of it will be on what they're able to do with the draft, what they do developing the backups, but they're counting on an old team to be able to get them there. Is risky, and it's unlikely that everyone will be available. It just depends on which combination of those guys are available, whether the San Francisco 49ers will be able to vie for the title.
John Hadley, I was talking to him, asked, hey, what's the biggest, free agent move so far? And he started talking about the Raiders, and he starts talking about Linderbaum at 25 years old, the center that some people had him graded as the best free agent in the draft, pound for pound. And do you agree? Is Linderbaum, Hadley's telling me like, Jason, don't underestimate how big this is for the Raiders. They got a group of young people led by Linderbaum. They signed a group of talented young people, and the Raiders may be a surprise of this free agency season so far.
Yeah, no, they did a really good job getting young players that embody what Clint Kubiak and really more importantly, what Tom Brady wants the Raiders to represent. In Linderbaum, what they've done is they've set the table for Fernando Mendoza to be the number one overall pick. When you get a center, an older center who understands how to play the game, now you obviously can give him some of those protection calls and some of the adjustments that normally would fall on the quarterback. That allows Mendoza to play fast and to play without the burden of having all the extra stuff that can come along with playing the position. But it goes beyond that. When you think about Quay Walker and Nakobe Dean teaming up, there. You think about bringing Malcolm Kuntz back. They made a trade for Johnson to corner to man one of those cornerback spots on the perimeter. They have a nice, solid core in place. But I feel like every time we've said that about the Raiders, it hasn't gone according to plan. We will see if Clint Kubiak and that coaching staff can maximize the talent that they have, because the Raiders have underachieved for a long time. Can they rid the curse and get back to winning? Look, that is a task that is challenging, and we'll see if Clint Kubiak is up to the job.
They paid quite a bit for Linderbaum for his center, around $20 million a year. That's and guy's just 25. He's gonna 3 years from now, it's gonna be another contract. What are they gonna pay him then? Did they maybe have to overpay for Linderbaum?
Look, man, you can't overpay for good players, and if they wanted to swipe him away from the Baltimore Ravens, sometimes you got to go above and beyond what the market would say that you should play a center. And it's only a bad move if it doesn't work out and he doesn't play well. He's a good player. He's been well schooled, first coming from Iowa, Kirk Ferentz. What he did in Baltimore was solid. Going to the Raiders with Rick Dennison and Clint Kubiak are going to run that tried and true system that used to frustrate us when I was with the Chiefs and the Broncos, when they used to run it and run the outside zone. They can do those same things. To me, it's a great move because he's the centerpiece of that offensive line. He's a natural leader, and he is going to allow your young quarterback to play better.
The Atlanta Falcons are kicking the tires on Tua Tagovailoa. I'm not sure what that said. It's just a 1-year deal. I think Kirk Cousins is still under contract with them. Obviously, they have the young kid. Why am I?
Michael Penix.
Michael Penix. What do you make of Tua going to Atlanta?
Well, I expect Kirk Cousins to be released. They talked about that happening maybe on March 11th. When it comes to Tua Tagovailoa and Michael Penix, what you're doing is you're creating competition, and you have an insurance policy against Michael Penix returning from his injury. Kevin Stefanski has always worked with undersized quarterbacks and has success. Going back to his work with Case Keenum, looking at what he did initially with Baker Mayfield, he had an affinity for Dylan Gabriel. So he is okay with an undersized quarterback being his guy. And Tua Tagovailoa, he has a left-handed quarterback that can get the ball out of his hands quickly. They have a nice crew of weapons on the outside. Bijan Robinson, Drake London, Kyle Pitts. That works. Now what you have in Michael Penix and Tua Tagovailoa. You have two guys that are off injured, but you're hoping that one can stay healthy and get this offense up and going. I'm believing that Tua Tagovailoa is going to be the starting quarterback because he has a head start. Michael Penix is recovering from that injury. If Tua jumps out well, particularly in minicamp and training camp, it allows Kevin Stefanski to put his system in with a veteran who's played a ton of games.
Tua as a starting quarterback that kind of blows my mind. And, I would set the over-under at 4 games on when he's going to get hurt again on that AstroTurf. I if that's Atlanta's plan for the future, it says something about Michael Penix. I don't know.
Well, here's the thing. Michael Penix has been hurt. He had 5 season-ending injuries throughout his career, college and the pros. So look, they're on a wing and a prayer either way with each quarterback. They're banking that Tua will find a way to get it done. Here's the thing about Tua. When Tua has been surrounded by upper echelon talent, he's played well. When he's protected by a solid offensive line, he's been available. Can they protect him? And can those playmakers on the outside make the plays that are expected of them? If they do that, that's a winnable division. I think the rationale behind that is Kevin Stefanski's looking at the division saying, Carolina, Tampa, New Orleans, they're all vulnerable. We can get this thing going. We can win right away, and that'll jumpstart the program.
Los Angeles Rams, they're always in win now mode. You have to be in Los Angeles. Only way to get attention there. It's not really a football town. They signed Jalen Watson. They get Trent McDuffie from the Chiefs. On paper, there are people like that's the best team in football. Do you agree?
Look, I think it's them and the Seattle Seahawks. Last year they were 1-2. I think it comes down to the same thing. This year, by making the move to get 2 Chiefs corners, which is kind of funny, they go and get Trent McDuffie, Jalen Watkins. Those guys can play together. That was the albatross. That's the thing that prevented the LA Rams from going to the Super Bowl, their secondary. And then you get experienced guys that play well together. Trent McDuffie, who has history with Jimmy Lake, who is in the building for the Rams. I like the moves. Now it's about making sure that Matthew Stafford can continue to play at an elite level. You want to keep him protected. But, man, the MVP shows no signs of slowing down. I expect the Rams to be right there in the end.
Okay, so yesterday I had a discussion about Max Crosby going to Baltimore. And I was arguing with Steve Kim that Max Crosby going to Baltimore means there's more pressure on Lamar Jackson next year than there is on Josh Allen. True or false?
Yeah, there's a lot of pressure on Lamar. Whether it's more is debatable. But yes, there's pressure because right now, if you are a Ravens fan, if you're in the Ravens organization, you can say, hey, Lamar, we've done it all. The last 2 years, the last 3 years, we talked about the Baltimore Ravens having the most talented roster in the league, and yet they have nothing to show for it. If they can't get it done with Max Crosby on defense, a new coach in Jesse Minter, a new play caller, and all of the newness that's around the quarterback, people are going to begin to look at number 8 and say, what is going on with Lamar Jackson? Why can't we continue to go? And I will say, last year, lack of availability and those things will give him a pass. This year, he has to be available and he has to play at a high level for this team to go where they want to go. And if they don't, then people are going to start looking at him as, hey, what's going on with you? Why can't you elevate this team? They're close enough. They're good enough. Why aren't they a Super Bowl team?
Listen, I agree perhaps that the Rams have more talent. They got Stafford. They got a complete team. But holy cow, when you're talking about Lamar Jackson, 2-time MVP, Max Crosby, second or third best defensive player in the league after Myles Garrett, you got Derrick Henry, and he's still Derrick Henry. Maybe not King Henry, but he's still Derrick Henry at running back. You got Zay Flowers at wide receiver. It's like they've given Lamar, and again, like as you said, Jesse Minter, young coach, something to prove. They've given Lamar everything. There are no more excuses. If it doesn't happen this year or next year, because I went and looked and saw like, hey, Steve Young, they got Deion Sanders, won a Super Bowl. Reggie White eventually delivered a Super Bowl to Brett Favre. Von Miller with the Rams in 2021 was brought in. There's been a history of defensive players showing up with the right quarterback and producing a Super Bowl. That's where I just think Josh Allen will still have a lot of pressure, but he'll always, at this point, still have the excuse, hey, it's not like they've given him a Cadillac around him. They've given Lamar all the necessary pieces. They seem to be like calling Lamar's bluff this entire offseason. Like, hey, are you going to show up for coaching interviews? Do you really want to be involved? Are you going to be at OTAs? How committed are you? Are you just happy with the money and the MVPs? Or are you going to do all the little things that help us win a Super Bowl?
Yeah, look, that's calling a spade a spade. He has to step up and make it happen. And we can talk about it because we talked about it on this show where the offensive coordinator and staff, they basically called him out and said, hey, man, we need you in the building to be able to do what we want to do when it comes to OTAs and mini camps and those things. We need you to show A-plus leadership on top of A-plus performance that you've shown in the past. There's a lot on Lamar Jackson, and it comes at a time where he is about to get a new contract that's going to be a blockbuster. And to whom much is given, much is required. I think they want to require more from him in terms of his presence, in terms of his production and his leadership.
Have I missed anything in free agency or in the past 24 or 48 hours that I should be asking you about or talking about?
No, I mean, look, there's so much going on, but I believe that we need to keep an eye on the wide receiver market as it goes forward. Alec Pierce signing that deal for his $116 million, someone who came from out of nowhere to average over 20 yards per catch. And in fact, he was so good that they traded off Michael Pittman to the Pittsburgh Steelers so that he could be the number one. What it's going to do, Jason, when you start getting that kind of money for receivers that some would say like they didn't know, now you're going to begin to have teams to look to the draft to find their guys. And you're seeing people move off of receivers now more than ever. Will we get to the point where people are saying, yeah, I'm not paying $30 million plus for a wideout. I'll just continue to draft guys and see if I can plug and play them behind or with a quarterback that's an upper echelon quarterback. Alec Pierce is going to be an eye opener that we'll look at this year and beyond to see if the market has gotten out of control for pass catchers.
I'm so glad you mentioned him, and because I should have. This isn't a fluke. 2 years in a row, averaging 20-plus yards per reception. With Indianapolis, with shaky quarterback play, injured quarterback play, upheaval at the quarterback position, this dude may not look the part, but he plays the part. I mean, he's the best long ball receiver in the NFL, and he's a white kid. And he's 6'3", and and a home run hitter. I think that contract raises eyebrows because he's not like a household name, but the numbers just don't lie. This dude is the real deal.
Yeah, dude is the real deal. When you talk to coaches there, they talk about how deserving he was of being not only elevated to the number one role, but getting the kind of contract that he's gotten. Hard worker, wins consistently on one-on-one opportunities. But then when you talk about the production, you've been around the league a long time, man. When you average 20 yards a catch, that is an explosive playmaker all the time. So he's able to get over the top. I'm excited to see what he does, but make no mistake, that does change the market when he makes that kind of money. Imagine what the elite wide receivers are going to command on the open market as we continue to get down the line with the salary cap exploding with new contract deals and everything hitting it.
Here's what 22.3 yards in 24, 21.3 yards per catch in 25. You just imagine what the elite receivers. You're saying he's not an elite receiver because they're paying him and banking on him becoming elite.
Yeah, like they're banking on the come. I can't say that he's elite right now. Like even though the production is elite, I can't put him in the same category as we would put Jamar Chase and JSN and those guys, Amon-Ra St. Brown. But you definitely got to keep an eye on it. You talked about back-to-back years averaging over 20 yards per catch. To me, as a defensive player, man, that is something that you're like, hey, we need to pay attention to him because he can get over the top of the defense. But now can he do it when he's the number one and everyone expects him to do it? It is different. It's a different role going to the number one chair as opposed to being the number two. We'll see if he can handle it.
That's a great point. He's going to see more coverage rolled his way. But listen, you got to give the Colts. They took him in the second round. It's not like they expected him to be something, and here he is in year 3 and 4, proving them to be right. Bucky, thank you for the time. Thank you for the conversation. Great job as always. We'll see you next time. All right, Bucky, great as always. Don't go anywhere. Jay Skap Attack, Skap Attack. Next.
ESPN sucks.
That he could possibly be a candidate in the next election for the president of the United States.
He started the rumors.
I mean, what are we doing right now? We're trying to convince the people that you're a legit candidate. Where's your tie?
As well, how can men help women? Because there aren't that many of us, particularly ones who do my job. And I think your husband is an extremely great example of how you do that, which is just by being freaking normal.
But America and the world as a whole ingratiated itself with the with the NBA product because you saw folks who were white, even though they weren't from America. I did not start those rumors, and not at all. But at the end of the day, the people are speaking, and that's what you see. Now let's.
And that's why
ESPN sucks.
I believe no regrets in our decisions. We all want to go to heaven with freedom. It's my obligation, no hate, discrimination, raising up your hands for freedom.
All right, as promised, we had to bring Jay Skap Attack in because there's big news in the National Basketball Association. So before we get to Travis Steele, the head coach at Miami, the undefeated Red Hawks that are 31-0, before we get to Travis's brother, John Groce, the leader of the Akron basketball team that's 17-1 in the MAC and maybe just as good as Miami. We're going to have both of those guys. I want to talk about the NCAA tournament, the MAC tournament. Before we get to them, I wanted to break the news. Skap, I don't know if you heard, but yesterday Adam Silver released a statement canceling Magic City night in Atlanta. I know you had plane tickets and hotel arrangements already, but Adam Silver has screwed you over here. When we became aware of the Atlanta Hawks scheduled promotion, we reached out to the Hawks leadership to better understand their plans and rationale. While we appreciate the team's perspective and their desire to move forward, we have heard significant concerns from a broad array of league stakeholders, significant concerns from a broad base of league stakeholders, including fans, partners, employees. I believe canceling this promotion is the right decision for the broader NBA community. That's Adam Silver, and I didn't think Adam Silver had it in him, but I'm certainly going to celebrate him when he does the right thing, Jay. I think he's done the right thing here.
Well, yeah, after a couple weeks of deliberation, obviously, I like how in the statement you just read, it was, we reached out to better understand. Oh, you've been talking about this for 3 weeks. They've known this was coming. I think it's just been like a rolling temperature check. And finally, there's been enough pushback, and finally half measures Silvers decided to do something, at least meet some of the people that are opposed to this halfway, because they are not completely canceling it. They're dropping some of the elements of it, but they're still doing some of the stuff. T.I. is still going to be performing, and they will still be selling the wings that everybody likes so much. Some kind of lemon pepper wings of some sort that I read in the press release. They will still be selling those. But some of the merch and some of the other things that were planned will not be going forward at this time. And Jason, I think I texted you the story from ESPN.com, which you had already heard of. But I don't know if you read the article I texted you. They dropped the name of a player in there, Luke Cornett. They named names, an active player for the Spurs that had reached out to the NBA and was urging them to reconsider moving forward with this planned promotional event. So, Jason, I'll leave it up to your imagination to decipher. Luke Cornett, actually, I'll just break it to you. he's a white. Leave it up to the whites to ruin the Magic City stripper night, Jason.
ESPN mentioned Luke Cornett, not Adam Silver, not the,
Yes.
Yeah, ESPN, that but he's been the only guy publicly, which is sad. That one guy in the NBA backed up by one other player who am I? Longtime Boston Celtics big man. Now I think he's finishing up someplace else. He kind of seconded Luke Cornett, but Luke Cornett's the only guy that's stuck his neck out there and spoke up.
Is Al Horford? Is that the name?
Al Horford. That's what I'm thinking of. Yes, Al Horford backed him up. But other than that, and what is there? 450 players in the NBA. LeBron James says nothing. Steph Curry says nothing. It's really embarrassing that it took some nondescript journeyman white boy that really doesn't matter to be the voice in the black league. That's why I give Adam Silver credit, because I don't think this was popular with the players and with the culture. But, here we are. I did not expect Adam Silver to do this. But I do think that once people connected the dots, that Jamie Kurtz, the wife of Tony Ressler, the owner of the Atlanta Hawks, once people figured out, well, she did a documentary series on Magic City, and now they're doing a celebration, I think that's what left Adam Silver no choice, is people figured out, hey, this wasn't the black community in Atlanta saying, hey, let's celebrate Magic City. This was the owner's wife saying, let's celebrate Magic City and support my documentary.
Yeah, definite conflict of interest, and just an insane idea in general. Like I heard of this first through you, because you've been talking about it for a couple weeks now, and I just can't believe, like, who thinks that this was a good idea? Let's have a strip club promotional night in an NBA arena. Like, the NBA is, I think, still promoting their product to families and trying to, get those husbands, wives, bring their kids to games. Like, this just was never going to work in my estimation. But like you said, kudos to Commissioner Adam Silver, who generally, this is, I would say, kind of the antithesis of what kind of move that we've come to know of him in his tenure. So I guess he read the tea leaves, though, and maybe there are some larger sponsors and predominant money people involved that were opposed to this, not just the two players that were named in Al Horford and Luke Cornett.
I'm telling you, if you live in Atlanta and exist in Atlanta, this was no big deal. I think the Hawks are actually surprised there was any blowback at all. And I do think there was some blowback outside of the NBA players community, I think among average fans outside of Atlanta. But if you live in Atlanta, that, I'm just going to keep it real. It's Chocolate City. It's Gay City. It's Single Baby Mama City. It's... What's the woman, Fannie Willis, that tried to take Trump down? That she's some kind of prosecuting attorney that talked like a gangster. Like, she was just as ghetto as any of the criminals there. I think existing in Atlanta, this feels normal, and the outside world just kind of invaded Atlanta's degeneracy. And so it is known for strip clubs and rap music, profane and degenerate rap music. And so in their mind, it's like, hey, this is what we do here in Atlanta.
Yeah, I mean, well, Jason, perhaps maybe there's a movement in the opposite direction coming now. Like, this could potentially be like a litmus test. Like when Bud Light decided to stop using their transgender spokesperson, that was a litmus test. Now maybe, oh, look, the strip club celebration event for this NBA game has been canceled. So maybe this is just good news for us moving forward, that like maybe society is correcting itself and we're getting back on the right track potentially.
Skap, before I let you go, I know you're a fan of the NFL as well. Seems like it was a crazy day in NFL free agency, the start of NFL free agency. Did you have a reaction to anything you saw? Any disappointment? See, it doesn't seem like your Pittsburgh Steelers have been too active so far. You have any reaction?
My reaction today was holy smokes. Like every time I went to the internet, there was some new crazy story breaking. Like I felt like it was early July and this was the NBA and we were having this frenetic player movement kind of period going on, like, and huge names, like crazy. Like when I saw that Ken Walker, was going to Kansas City. It was just mind-boggling to me that Seattle would let him get away, the Super Bowl MVP. And then like 2 hours later, it's like, oh yeah, and Mike Williams, yeah, he's gone too. He's going to San Francisco now. Mike Evans, sorry. So it was, to me, it was just a crazy frenetic day. I'm hearing Kyler Murray now to Minnesota potentially. The Vikings have become the favorite for his services, which makes little sense to me. I would be trying to get, maybe Aaron Rodgers for a bridge year to see what they have there in JJ McCarthy. But Jason, my major takeaway here is, and I listened to some of you and Bucky on his way out, so I listened to like the last 10 minutes of your conversation. I love what the Rams have done. I think the Rams have an elite, they've maybe the best offense in the NFL last year already. They have a first team All-Pro, Puka Nacua wide receiver now at this point. Kyron Williams made back-to-back All-Pro second teams like 2 and 3 years ago. And now they have the league MVP in Matt Stafford. So the big issue for them, secondary, well, they just gutted Kansas City's secondary. So the Chiefs they're gonna make all the noise, I guess, with the Ken Walker signing, but they lose 2 starting cornerbacks and a first-team All-Pro in his own right in McDuffie, because he was a first-team All-Pro 3 years ago and he was second-team All-Pro 2 years ago. So really, the Rams addressed their huge issue, and I believe, Jason, that the Super Bowl is in LA. So I think that there's just going to be a huge push for the Rams. I think they were the best team in the NFL last year. They had like a 2 or 3 week stretch where they just choked away 2 huge games, one against Seattle, which ultimately cost them home field advantage and what would have been the home field in the NFC championship game or whenever they would have met Seattle. So I think there's going to be an attention to detail with the Rams all year this year. They're going to be focused to get to that Super Bowl in LA. And I think ultimately the Rams should be the big favorite to win the Super Bowl this season.
Skap, thank you so much. I got to go. I got to talk a little college basketball. I got Travis Steele and John Groce just around the corner. Wish me luck. Travis Steele, Miami Redhawks, 31-0. Next. I would say, why wouldn't that be his attitude? There's only one path. I don't know if he's got kids yet. I think he's married. He probably want to have kids. If I want my name not to be associated or less associated with negative stuff when my kids would carry my name and Deshaun Watson's your daddy, the only path back to clean up that name is greatness on the field. We saw it with Kobe Bryant after the events in Denver, Colorado. He put his head down, won championships, great player, and now it's like the whole thing in Denver is an afterthought. Deshaun Watson, if he somehow, with that defense that Cleveland has, if he somehow was able to take Cleveland to a Super Bowl, that would totally rebrand. All right, welcome back. And as promised, the head coach of the only undefeated team in Division I basketball, Travis Steele, head coach of the Miami Redhawks, the greatest story going in college sports. They're kind of like they're a different kind of Indiana, and what they did in football, it's a different kind of. Indiana built the greatest team in college football this year. Miami has built the most successful team. Without further ado, let me welcome in Travis Steele. And Travis, I'm not going to ask the silly question that everybody's been asking you. about, hey, should you guys make the tournament if you lose? My question is, should the MAC be a two-bid league? Because I think you and your brother have done the greatest job in the history of MAC basketball. It's the greatest season. I think both of you are qualified. Akron and Miami are both qualified to be in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, Jason. I think they've had, it's funny. We've gotten a lot of national publicity, and I'm happy for Miami, but Akron deserves more than what it's gotten. They've had a great year. I mean, they went 17-1 in conference play. He's got them playing at a very, very high level, as he always does. He's built a juggernaut up there at Akron, is super, super consistent every year. They're right there, either in the NCAA tournament or in position to be in the NCAA tournament. So, yeah, I think, listen, the numbers games make it difficult for the mid-major conferences nowadays to get multiple bids, right? All the Ken Pomeroy, the net rankings, everything is slanted towards the P5, P6. But if you just look solely at the results still matter, right? Did you win or did you lose? I think they could be a team, Akron, that could advance in the NCAA tournament, not just make it. And I think we can as well. So it's just a great league. The MAC's an awesome league. A lot of good coaches, Todd Kowalczyk, Rob Senderoff, Jeff Bowles. I mean, you can go on and on. There's some Frank Martin. There's some tremendous coaches in our league. So to go 17-1 and 18-0 in league play is very hard to do.
So I've been following the Mid-American Conference since 1984. I think that's when Ball State started recruiting me. I joined the football team in 1985. And so I've from Ron Harper to Dan Palambizio to Gary Trent, the Shack of the MAC. I know all the history of Mid-American Conference. What you've done here at 31-0 is the greatest story in MAC basketball history. And I think one thing that I just haven't heard discussed enough, people want to talk about your non-conference schedule and what quad 1, quad 2 wins or whatever, but winning 31 straight games, and then in particular the last 12 games when there's been a big target on your back. Every game is a Super Bowl for the opponent. And we really saw that in your last game against Ohio. That's one of the great atmospheres. It felt like you were at Cameron Indoor Arena.
Yeah.
And you're getting everyone's best shot, and people don't want to give you credit for getting everyone's best shot the last 5 to 6 weeks of the season. That's incredibly hard.
Yeah. I probably didn't understand it probably until you go through it, right? Until your feet are in it. And, man, everywhere we would go, it was sold out. I mean, it was just, like you said, we were their Super Bowl. And all of a sudden, guys would play, quite honestly, a lot of times above their level. You would see guys, all of a sudden, the guys hit 1-3 all year in league play. He hits 3 threes in the game. It's like, man, what is going on? But it felt like that happened almost every game. Again, it's hard. You got to be sharp, and you can't let anybody take your mind. So it was difficult. I will say that to get to where we are right now, but I give our guys a lot of credit, man. We are really resilient. We've had to overcome a lot of adversity. I know we're 31-0, but on the road, tough environments, the whole deal, everybody's Super Bowl. We've had multiple guys go down with injuries throughout the season, lost our starting point guard at the first game of conference play, who was a first team All-MAC guy. I mean, how many teams could do that and still go undefeated? But we have a lot of good players, and that's the blessing of our team is strength in numbers. And like I said, man, our guys are tough. They're built for that moment, and they thrive in those tight moments.
All right, you won 25 games last year, and I think you returned several of those players. Did you know you were going to be really, really good this year? Maybe not 31-0, but more than 25 victories probably made sense to you guys.
Yeah, we set a single season record last year for wins, as you just said, 25 wins in last season. And we kept 6 of our top 9 guys from last year's team. And we lost a kid to Georgia Tech, lost a kid to Kentucky, lost another kid to Lindenwood. that we didn't necessarily want to lose any of those three. But, you're going to have some attrition, just happens in this landscape. But we did keep the bulk of our team. And so I knew we had a chance to be really good then and there. We lost a heartbreaker in the MAC championship game. Shoot, we led, Jason, probably 39 minutes and 56 seconds to that game. We lost to my brother in that championship game. And, to get everybody back that we got, the 6 guys, man, I thought it really propelled us into the spring. Because, I always say big events call for big responses, right? That was a big event when we lost. It was hard. It was a gut wrencher. Felt awful for our guys. But the response that we had in the spring, the extra effort, the extra work and that our guys were putting in was so noticeable. It was the best spring I've ever been around in all of college hoops. And I've been coaching since I was 22 years old. So for a long time, so over 20 years of college hoops. And I knew we had a real shot, how motivated our guys were. Man, and that just carried over into the summer, to the fall, and then obviously into the preseason and into the season. So I knew we had a chance to be really good.
So I've known Frank Martin now, I think, for close to 20 years. However long ago when he started at Kansas State, that's when I met him. Very good friends. He's an excellent coach. And UMass hasn't had the season that Frank wanted, but UMass is a very, very dangerous team, and you're going to get another Super Bowl-like effort because this is the one chance for UMass to salvage its season, be all over ESPN and whatnot. Tell me how difficult a task it will be Thursday morning to take on UMass.
Yeah, number one, he's a Hall of Famer. I mean, his teams have an identity. They play so hard. They're so tough. It's almost football, Jason, out there. You probably like that, playing football, man. I always say it's football with no pads and no helmet when you play Frank's teams. He does a great job. They got great players. They got a couple all-conference guys. We know we're going to get their best shots. The third time we'll have seen them. We played them at our place, then we played at their place, and now neutral site. So we know it's going to be a great game, and we got to be ready, man. We got to create our separation with our preparation here during this week's practices and film sessions and lifts to give ourselves an opportunity to get that win on Thursday morning against UMass.
All right, I don't want to avoid the elephant in the room. The other part of this great story is just that your brother is coaching the other great team in the MAC. How close are you and John I know there's a 10-year age gap. I think you guys have the same mother, different fathers, but
Correct.
Walk us through your relationship with your brother from childhood all the way through this coaching experience.
Yeah, we're very close, obviously. Very, very close. John, we obviously grew up in the same house, the entire time. He was 10 years older than I am, like you said, and same mom, different fathers. But in a lot of ways, man, I was his shadow kind of growing up. You know how it is when you get an older brother like that, you really look up to him. And he loved hoops. He played, varsity high school basketball at Danville High School in Indiana. We grew up right outside of Indianapolis. He went to Taylor University. He actually coached me in AAU. And I got some stories, Jason, on that now. Come on. He probably doesn't want to tell us that was back when he was a little wilder. So again, we're super, super close. So when he would coach at North Carolina State, he was an assistant coach under Herb Sendek. I'd go down every summer and basically stay the whole summer with him and work out and be in the offices at a young age. Man, I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted to do exactly what he was doing. And listen, I would not be where I'm at today without him. Now, there's no question about it. And he's my mentor. Look up to him. I think he's the best coach in the country, in my opinion. I know I'm biased, but he does a phenomenal job, and super proud of him, man. Number one, he's a great coach, but he's an even better person. So, and how he does things and how he does his business, man, really respect him.
Do you guys help each other out, or?
No, since we've been in the league, it's hard, for the longest, we were never in the same league. I was at Xavier. He was either at Akron or he's at Illinois, Ohio, and so, we would try to help each other constantly with just, X's and O's and different things. And now we're in the same league. It's just so unique, and I want to see him do really well. other than when he plays the Red Hawks, right? Other than when he plays Miami. But it's probably hardest on our mom. Jason, I like that. She takes it really hard, like even like this year, we beat them in the regular season in January. You win, but then it kind of feels a little half empty after the game, because I love them so much. I want them to do, like I said, listen, we're playing to win while we're in that game. That's for darn sure. But at the same time, man, I cheer for them. I want to see them do really, really well.
So let's say, hypothetically, you ran into some recruit that's like, man, I don't think he's right for us here in Miami. We already got a guy at that spot. Would you call John and be like, hey, man, there's a guy that maybe you should take a look at? Or is that like, nah, we're competitors?
Absolutely not. I'm not picking up that phone and calling him at all. Hey, listen, he doesn't need my help, Jason. He does a great job. He's got a great staff, but it is like, again, he's won. I mean, like, he won at Ohio big back in the day when he was there. It's his second go around in the MAC, and he's crushing it at Akron. I mean, yeah, he doesn't need my help, man. He's good.
The playing styles, coaching styles, are there similarities, or are you guys completely different?
You know what? Like, John's teams have changed the way that they've played the last year and this year. It's more like us, if I'm being honest, like very free flow, fast pace, a lot of threes. And again, you play to your personnel. And that's what he does such a good job of. Like when I first got in league, he had the kid Enrique Freeman, who was just a monster, right? He's a double machine, and you should throw the ball in almost every time down the floor, right? I mean, when you got a guy like that. So they played a little slower at that point, and they were throwing it inside a lot. Now he doesn't really do, he doesn't do that. Not that he has a really good big kid. Amani Lyles is a monster, but he's a different type of big than what Enrique was. And that's where John does such a good job, man, is he has the ability to make adjustments with his personnel to put his personnel in the best position possible. He's not too stubborn to say, hey, this is the way I'm playing, and listen, I don't care, right? He will get the best players, and he will make it work. And I think that's a sign of a great coach. He's willing to make adjustments.
All right, so I'm supposed to interview John right after you, so I'm going to ask him. You've taken credit for his coaching style. I'm going to ask him about that. You've changed his coaching. And then the other thing that I can legitimately say you've done for him is because you guys get all the attention, being 31-0 and undefeated, he's kind of got to fly under the radar this year, which is probably a bit of an advantage for him. It's not a Super Bowl every time someone plays Akron, and they've had an incredible season, but you've probably been an asset for him in that way, in giving his team something to shoot for and to shoot at, and keeping the pressure and attention off of Akron.
Yeah, probably some truth to that, Jason. I mean, like that's the, yeah. I mean, but listen, his team, again, they've gotten a lot better throughout the year. You watch them play. No, his teams do every year. I mean, like he gets those guys to peak at the right time, which that's what the elite coaches can do, right? I think that's the separator from the really, really good guys to the elite, man. They have the ability to get their guys to peak at the right time. And John's done that, whether he was at Ohio. I know the Illinois thing maybe didn't finish the way that he wanted it, but but look at Akron, what he's done there, man. Akron's rolling, man. They're a juggernaut. So, yeah, I mean, but again, like they deserve more national headlines. And I've been saying that like for the last month. I was like, I don't understand why they're not getting more love, quite honestly, because they should, because they're good enough to be that. They're good enough to be an at-large team. Like they not just make the team, not just make the tournament. They could advance in the tournament. And there's a difference, as you know.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. Well, look, both of you, I guess Kent State is regarded the 2001, I think, Stan Heath team. I think they went to the Elite Eight. When I was at Ball State, we had a team that took UNLV to the wire for a chance to go to the Elite Eight with Dick Hunsaker had replaced him. But one of you guys is going to somebody's going to be the greatest team, and you guys got the best resume for that. Let me ask you this about Miami's got some great alums, from Ron Harper to Ben Roethlisberger to Sean McVay. Have you heard from all four of those guys? Any of them give you more support or more connected to the team than any of the others?
Man, they've all been great. We've had Ron Harper back to a game this year. We've had Wally Zerbiak back for a game this year.
Yeah.
But listen, you just said it. I think the alumni base here is just so strong. I mean, not even just the athletes. Like, you look at it from a perspective, like, look at all the CEOs that came from Miami. I mean, it's incredible. Like a guy like Brian Nickel, who obviously is at Starbucks. I mean, like, it's the outreach has been awesome. The support has been incredible. I mean, we've went from having basically, Jason, 200 people at our games to now we're 10,640, and as the season's gone on. And I'm hoping that we've connected that past, obviously to the present, and then that will help the future of the university as well. And I think, we got a great president and President Crawford and our athletic director, David Salem. We're all pulling in the same direction. So hopefully we can catch this momentum that we have right now. And because that's important, right? Because momentum's everything. You got to catch things at the right time. And especially in this landscape that we are in college basketball, it's so unique, and not just college basketball, college athletics in general. We're at the right place at the right time, man. I love being here. This is an awesome place. I love coaching in this league. The MAC is awesome. The amount of great players that have played in all these universities in our league, and the great players that are currently in our league, and coaches, man, it's a lot of fun. It is a lot of fun. It's absolute wars every night.
Travis, we'll end on this note. I feel a little iffy, spotty about this question, but I got to ask it. There are, and I don't want to speed you up too far, but there are people that will say, hey, the only thing that matters, the only way for Miami to legitimize themselves is to win an NCAA tournament game. That, if they want to make this 31-0 season really meaningful, you have to win an NCAA tournament game. What do you say to people that contend that?
Yeah, I would say, number one, the meaningful thing for me has been the journey. Listen, like all the early mornings, the conditioning, the lifting, the relationships, the experiences are going to last a lifetime. I mean, everybody wants the results, but I'm obsessed with the journey. I think number two, Jason, like I recruited all of our young men in our program, and I sat them down in my office and I said, listen, if I want to make sure everybody understands what my goal is for this program is to advance to the second weekend of the NCAA tournament. And if that's not your goal, then I don't want you to come here. If you don't believe that can happen, then I don't want you here, right? Because I do think we have guys that are built for that moment. And I think our guys are built for the big stage. We have winners. We have guys that have a huge chip on their shoulder. We're hungry. So listen, we want to advance. I don't want to shy away from that at all. But the biggest thing for me, I obsess with the journey. I mean, I can't tell you how good a young men we have and how fun of a group it is to be around. And I'm just super blessed to be a part of it.
Of those 31 victories, any of them sweeter than all the rest?
Man, Ohio's pretty sweet. And the only reason we haven't won there, I guess, since 2011. And I used the Kurt Signetti line when I think they beat Penn State as far as the streak. Hey, listen, this team just hasn't played at Ohio. And that's what I told our guys. But it was a rivalry game. Obviously, it was to go undefeated as well in the regular season. It was a great environment, awesome environment, what college athletics are all about. That was a pretty sweet one.
Travis, thank you for the time. Good luck on Thursday. Good luck the rest of the season. You've made all of us MAC guys proud. Anyway, good luck, Travis. I'm an old Indiana boy. To see two Indiana boys like you and your brother just out here crushing it, it's awesome. Seeing you guys lift up the MAC, it's awesome. I will be rooting for you in March.
Thanks for having me on, Jason.
All right, that's Travis Steele. More fearless. Next. They can make anything sound good. The words that I'm saying right now on this show, they can put a beat behind it, beat behind it, beat behind it, beat behind it, and put their sales team behind it, and put their television industry behind it, and put their internet algorithms behind it, and make the words that I'm saying right now into a rap song, beat behind it, beat behind it, beat behind it, that the idiots in the world, and I'm talking about me and everybody else, we will buy it and call it great. Beat behind it, beat behind it. The music industry doesn't reward talent, not the American music industry, not the world's music industry. It doesn't reward talent. It rewards the promotion of degeneracy.
Words are our religion, no regrets in our decisions. We all wanna go to heaven with freedom. It's my obligation, no hate, discrimination, raising up your hands for freedom.
All right, welcome back. And as promised, the other half of the brother combination, I didn't mention this to Travis, but I have this whole thing that these are the Clegane brothers, I believe. Anybody watch Game of Thrones? Sandor and Gregor Clegane. John, did you watch Game of Thrones? The Hound and the Mountain?
I did not, but I've heard about it. Obviously, I'm not much of a. My wife would tell you I'm not much of a TV watcher unless I'm watching ball. Occasionally, I'll get into a show. I think this shows you how long ago I've gotten into a show. But the last show I got into was Ballers. And some reason I really liked that show, and was fascinated each week to see the next episode. But that's probably the last one I've really. Maybe Ted Lasso might be the other one, Jason.
Ted Lasso's a great show. Ballers is probably that doesn't even crack HBO's top 30 shows, I don't think. It wasn't bad. If you're a sports guy, it wasn't bad. Obviously, I'm a former football player, so I watched, and some friends of mine appeared on the show. But the Game of Thrones is one of the all-time great shows, at least for 5 or 6 seasons. And they had these two brothers that were rivals, Gregor and Clegane, and Gregor and Sandor, and they were giants. They were 7 foot tall, muscled up, blah, blah, blah. And they had this great battle at the end. And that's kind of what I think about when I think about you and your brother. The two giants of the Mid-American Conference. I played football at Ball State, been following Mid-American Conference basketball since 1984, 1985. What you guys have done is incredible. But I have to think, if I'm you, I'm like, my little brother, I've just gone 34-2 in back-to-back years, have completely dominated this conference, and no one even knows or cares because my brother goes 31-0. And so is there any jealousy that your little brother has stolen a tiny bit of your spotlight?
No jealousy for sure, but I'd rather fly under the radar at this point in time. So we, in some ways that's a little bit of a blessing, but, obviously congrats to them. They had a phenomenal year. We played them one time. Unfortunately, Jason, I've always been a fan, especially with us only sending 8 teams to Cleveland. Speaking as a Ball State person like you are, they were one of the teams that finished 7-11, just like the 7 and 8 seed, and did not get in because of tiebreakers. So the schedule's imbalanced. Obviously, I love our league. Commissioner John Steinbrecher, Ricky, they really work at it. But I've always been a fan of playing each other twice. And it just so happened we didn't get the opportunity to do that here this year with Miami and some other teams. But it is what it is. We can't control that.
John, I think you have a case, and I know you'll be uncomfortable bragging about yourself, but you have a case to be the greatest coach in Mid-American Conference history. You've done it at 2 different programs now. At Ohio, you had tremendous success in 2011, 2012. You guys go 29-8, advance to the Sweet 16. You had taken them to the NCAA tournament 2 years before, and now you turn back around and you've done it again here at Akron. You've created a great program. Has anyone? I couldn't imagine I'm the first person to say this guy's got to be the greatest coach in Mid-American Conference basketball history.
You know, it's interesting. I get asked that here because I followed a legendary great coach, Keith Dambrod, who had a ton of success. He's from Akron. He's a friend. He's a great coach. But I always tell people that really does – what motivates me, Jason, is I want to coach the best teams that have ever played at Akron. You know, I don't get motivated getting up in the morning thinking about being the best coach that's ever coached here or someplace else or, you know, in a conference. I want to coach the best teams. And I think our team this year has been as good a team as we've had here during my 9 years. And we've had an unbelievable run, as you mentioned, 3 conference tournament championships in 4 years, 5 total championships in 6. There's only been 6 other programs in all college basketball that have done that. We're 40-2 in our last 42 games against MAC opponents. I mean, that's ridiculous. Obviously, we've had really good players, great staff, great teams. But this team has a chance to be that team. Obviously, we still got a lot of work to do this week, starting with Buffalo on Thursday.
So I'm someone, and this isn't my MAC bias, although I'm sure it plays a little bit of a role, but I think Akron and Miami belong in the big dance in the NCAA tournament. Given Akron's history, given your history, I just don't see how everybody's talking about Miami and whether Miami deserves it. And I'm like, well, that's crazy. They won 31 straight. What we should be talking about is Akron. 34-2 in the last 2 years within the conference. The guy's record and resume is unbelievable. I don't even hear people referencing you guys as a bubble team, and it really drives me crazy.
Yeah, no, you're right. And all those numbers and the metrics, the way they're designed now with the net, certainly, I think, obviously, I'm stating a fact here. They favor the Power Four plus the Big East. They do. And it just is what it is. But you're right. We've got 5 losses, and all 5 teams have won 20 or more games. You know, Troy's getting ready to play in the Sun Belt Championship. They've won 20 plus. Miami's 31-0. Purdue's pretty challenging to beat in Mackey Arena. That's not an easy task. We played them there. Yale, Coach Jones does a tremendous job at Yale. You know, they won the Ivy League regular season. They're still playing in the Ivy League conference tournament, and they've won 23-plus games. So, yeah, we've played a really challenging schedule purposefully to get us ready for MAC play. And you look at what our guys have been able to do, you're right, Jason, over this 2-year window. It really is. When you start saying 34-2, or someone told me 40-2 the other day in our last 42 games against MAC opponents, and you just like shake your head. I mean, it's like, wow. You know, I'm not sure there's enough. Maybe there is another program in college basketball. I'd have to get our SID to figure it out. That's went 40-2 in their last 42 games against conference opponents. I don't know how many of them are out there.
Who taught you and your brother how to coach?
Well, we grew up in a basketball family. You know, my parents, my father and my mother were from Newcastle, Indiana, which has the world's largest high school gymnasium. They grew up on basketball ever since I was little. I mean, when I was born, they have pictures of me laying in a crib at the hospital with a basketball goal attached to the crib, and I'm only days old. And so it's a part of who we are. I'm sure Trav told you that, or you felt that way talking to him. Like, it's something that our family's taken a lot of pride in for years, whether it's my mother, my deceased father, my stepfather. My stepfather's cousin played for the Portland Trail Blazers and won an NBA championship back in the 70s with Bill Walton and Jack Ramsey as the coach. So there's a lot of
Who was your cousin?
When it comes to hoops.
Who was your cousin?
Guy named Larry Steele was my stepfather's cousin. Yeah.
Got you.
And he was a college basketball coach, as well as obviously a great player at Kentucky for Joe B. Hall, and for the Portland Trail Blazers for Coach Jack Ramsey.
So Travis did credit you, particularly I think he said, did you spend some time at Georgia Tech as an assistant? I think
NC State.
NC State. Yeah.
Yep.
Said he came and visited you down there and soaked up, and that's where he like, man, this is what I want to do. Blah, blah. He credited you with developing him, teaching him. Do you still teach him, or is he his own little engine now and doesn't need your help?
Yeah, Trav's kind of his own engine, right? He's, but at the same time, obviously, anytime, and I think he's this way just like I am. We like to always call ourselves lifelong learners. I tell people like, hey, I think I'm the best version of our staff's the best version of itself now relative to 9 years ago, because we've worked really hard over the last 9 years to get better every year. No different than we request of our players. So, I've really seen him grow, and obviously he's done an unbelievable job there, developing that program. I'm proud of him. If he took a little bit here and there away from the experience he had, I coached him in AAU. I brought him down to NC State. We've been around each other obviously quite a bit growing up, and I appreciate him saying that. But he's also developed his own ideals and systematically how he wants to teach the game and how he wants his teams to play.
I'm saying this, you're going to think I'm poking you, but I'm telling you what he actually said. He said, and you can watch, he said that his style of play has influenced your style of play, and that Akron now plays the way that Miami plays. True or false?
Yeah, well, I love my brother, but I'd have to disagree with that. Actually, the biggest influence for us 2 years ago in the shift was watching Alabama. I've got a friend, Ryan Pannone, who's very bright. He's the head coach at Arkansas State. And so I was fascinated a little bit with their style and really took a deep dive into that 2+ years ago, and really started to think about how we systematically wanted to play coming out of COVID as well. Was influenced by the European game, in addition to obviously the, how fast and free and conceptual Alabama plays. Obviously, the NBA has went in that direction a little bit more as well, with 5 out and conceptual offense more than calling plays. It's about players making decisions, and certainly the way they play, they do that as well through a different system. So there are some similarities there with what he was saying. But, the biggest influence there was really kind of the NBA, the European game, and maybe even more so than the NBA. And then obviously some influence from Alabama and watching them play offensively during Nate's tenure.
So as a MAC guy, I was under the maybe false belief that the current setup of college basketball would prevent what I'm seeing with my own eyes. This, what you and your brother have done, this is the greatest year of MAC basketball ever. I thought it couldn't happen during the NIL era and just the transfer portal era. I just thought like the glory days of MAC basketball, from Ron Harper to Dan Marley to Dave Jamerson to just Shaq of the MAC, Gary Trent, Wally Zerber. I just thought, no way. Am I right? Is it much harder to do what you guys are doing, or has NIL actually made it a possibility to do what you guys are doing?
Probably a little bit of both. I certainly don't want to speak for Trav, but I can tell you this. I do think a big part of both teams having a good year is retention. And so they've been able to retain the majority of their roster, returning from last year to this year, and we have been as well. On our end, obviously, the winning, the culture, the player development, our guys becoming pros. Every scholarship player, with the exception of one in 9 years, has went on to play professional basketball. I've got a friend who's at the Power 5 level, and he's just astonished by that. He cannot believe, obviously at Akron, that we've been able to do that. Every player that's exhausted their eligibility's graduated, some of them with multiple degrees. So those things matter, and they have impacted retention. But as you're alluding to, Jason, so has NIL. And, obviously we've been very competitive with that, near the top of the league here. I think it's something certainly that is attributed for sure to retention and our success. In terms of how that's impacted Trav, you'd have to ask him. But it's really a combination of all those things for us.
So because Miami has sucked up all the oxygen in the room, people don't really know about Tavari Johnson, Amani Lyles, your best players. Could you walk us through your roster and the strengths and weaknesses of the guys on your team?
Yeah, I appreciate the question because it is about those guys, and it's really we've got 5 seniors, which is unique in this environment, which is what you were alluding to, Jason. I think you pegged it. Tavari Johnson obviously is a guy that's in contention for MAC Player of the Year. At one point he was one of the very few guys in America that was a 50, 40, 90 guy, 2s, 3s, free throws, 50%, 40%, 90%. Obviously, he's one of the great playmakers in our league, and I think nationally because he has the ability to make others better as well as score the ball. We have another guy in Shema Scott who was 6th man of the year last year, and in my opinion, I think should earn it again this year. That's basically a starter, and it's what allows our team to be really good. We have great depth. I've got 8 guys about every night. I could start any of those 8 based on what they've earned through preseason practice and the season. So we've got an opportunity to bring guys off the bench that are starter quality, which makes our team really good. Shema Scott spearheads that. Bowen Hardman's a great shooter, transfer from Ohio State. He's as good a shooter as I've coached. He not only shoots them well from a percentage standpoint, he gets it off quickly, really creates a lot of gravity out there for his teammates. Evan Mahaffey, who's also another transfer, came in to play with his brother, Eric, who has a chance to be on the all-freshman team and is really special in his own right. But Evan's a guy that is a utility knife. I mean, he affects steals, rebounds, block shots. He guards the other teams 1 through 5. He has the capability of being a double-figure guy in any given game. And then Lyles is the 5th senior whose story from freshman who led the MAC in fouls per minute played to all league, which I think it'll come out that he will be that at some level here in the next day or two, is incredible, Jason. I mean, the maturity of this kid, where he's at as a person, student, and player versus 4 years ago when he first got here, I mean, he's a poster child for development. So it really starts with those 5 seniors, and then we bring, I mentioned Eric Mahaffey, the freshman. Sharon Young was on the all-freshman team last year, has started games for us this year. He's coming off the bench currently. Zach Halligan's given us quality minutes. Marvin Musime Kamali has in the front court, and so has Chabi Bare. So, we're rolling basically 10 deep, and that depth has been really good for us.
So you did it at Ohio. You're doing it at Akron. I don't want to ask you an unfair question or a silly question, but I kind of have to ask it. Are you a MAC lifer now?
Yeah.
I just
no, it's a great question.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I got no problem. I get asked it frequently. Obviously, we've loved being here. We've had an unbelievable run. I like to be at places, Jason, where it's supported. There's a commitment to excellence. It's been that way to this point. We're trying to obviously take it one day at a time and enjoy this team. I mentioned at the outset of our conversation how special this team is, not only in terms of talent, but the type of dudes that we have. But some of those things when people ask are outside your control, right? Some of them are, sometimes you got control over that, sometimes you don't. So, for us, it's about getting lost in where we're at right now and what we're doing. But I don't ever say never. I think you can back yourself into a corner, that way. But, I just love to be at places where you're striving for excellence and you're thinking about constantly, how do we get better? How do we grow it? How do we resource it more? Those things are the most important to me. I'm not a guy who's a standstill guy. I think if you stand still, the other competition is going to blow right by you. You're either getting better or you're going backwards. And our focus has been on getting better. Obviously here, it's a big reason we've had success over the 9 years. But obviously, that sometimes that comes and goes with decisions that are made. So just trying to enjoy this team as much as we possibly can. But, I don't ever, I'm a little different than most guys. I don't ever say never. I think that, we're in an environment that changes constantly.
You're also I think, is it 6 or 7 years, other than the COVID year, you've won 20 plus games virtually every season, other than the COVID year. And so when you say this is my best team or the best Akron team ever, I have to go all the way to like, so are you saying this team is capable potentially of doing what your Ohio team did in your last year at Ohio? Is it that good?
I think we're capable, but you follow it, Jason. You've been doing it a long time. Like, so much of it is it's not an NBA playoff series where you and I are probably old enough. We remember when some of those were best of 5. Now they're all best of 7s, but it's not a best of 5, best of 3, best of 7. It's who plays the best that day. It's about matchups. So much goes into that. It's interesting. We've had so much tournament success. Coaches will say, hey, what's the secret sauce? And 2/3 of it, they like what I tell them, but the last third is reality. So I always tell them it takes talent. You got to be good enough first. Secondly, you got to be really, really prepared. And third, you got to be really lucky. And obviously that last one you can't control. I mean, it is what it is, but you can control the first 2. And certainly that's what we try to do on a daily basis.
So can I quote you back to Travis saying that he got lucky this year going 31-0? Is that what you're really saying? It's just luck and you're still the better coach?
No, I don't know about that. But what I will say is this: it's hard to win every game, regardless of who you're playing. I mean, I understand everybody knows that follows sports, and obviously you played it at a high level and you follow it closely on the daily. So, that's not, not easy to do. Obviously I feel really good about our team and what we've done. We broke the school record for most wins in the regular season. We finished on Ken Palm as the number 1 defensive team and the number 1 offensive team in league games. So we've done a lot of really, really good things. What's interesting is when you get in these tournaments, it doesn't matter because at this point, everybody's 0-0. And what you did previously isn't going to get you anything, whether, in my opinion, whether it's Miami or us. So, we've got to play the game that's in front of us on Thursday.
Don't want to get you too far ahead of yourself, but if you were pitching to the guys on the tournament selection committee and you were trying to make your case for, hey, why Akron? Why should there be 2 teams from the MAC if we don't win the MAC tournament? What would your pitch be?
Well, some of what I said earlier, right? We've played a really good schedule. Our 5 losses are against, I believe, quad 1s and 2s. One of them may have crept to 3. And that may be Troy, but Troy just won the semifinal of the Sun Belt last night to get to their 21st win, and they're playing for the Sun Belt Championship, I believe, today. So we played a really good schedule. We've won the games, obviously, at this point on paper that you're supposed to do, which is hard to do. We're number 1 in DER, number 1 in OER in league games. We've had an unbelievable year. And I think we're older with 5 seniors. We've got really good guard play. As you know, Jason, I think that's so important in whether it's the MAC tournament or the NCAA tournament to have good guard play. We've got one of the best in the country in Tavari Johnson. So, I think we're equipped. Obviously, as you said earlier, you think you're capable of making a run like some of those other teams we've had previously. We are. You've got to be good enough, prepared, and you got to be a little lucky. But yeah, I think certainly we're one of those teams that is one of the best teams in the country.
Well, John, I just want to thank you for taking the time and for making me, you and your brother have made me pay more attention to Mid-American Conference basketball than, I used to just strictly watch Ball State games. You guys have made me watch the entire league. Frank Martin joined in. Frank Martin and I have been friends for about 20 years, so I follow him at UMass.
Yeah.
So
Frank's
MAC,
a good coach, good human.
Yeah, I'm just astonished at just how good and interesting the MAC is. You guys play Buffalo, I think, to open up the MAC tournament. How difficult of a matchup is that going to be?
Well, anytime you play someone 3 times, it's hard, right? Familiarity, I always say, breeds contempt. And so, it'll be challenging in that regard. Both teams are super familiar with each other. We just played game 2 against them on February 24th. So this is a right around the corner game. And, we've got to be able to step up and make plays. Obviously, we got to make some adjustments. I'm sure they're trying to do the same thing. But, ultimately it'll come down a little bit to, who makes shots, who executes the best. I think in these conference tournaments, very rarely, if at all, Jason, do you catch a team that doesn't want to play that day in a postseason tournament. That doesn't happen very often. So it comes down to who executes the best and who plays the best that day.
Final question. The Hurley brothers versus you and Travis. Who wins if you played basketball? If you two played against each other, and I'm talking about right now, not in your primes, right now, and then
I don't know right now if in our primes, but what I would tell you is that I think obviously we both played on our side, but I also saw those guys play in college, and I have to probably be a little bit realistic. We'd fight them. Trav's a fighter, I'm a fighter. We'd fight them, but I don't know.
You wouldn't have a size advantage?
I don't know if we'd ultimately get them on the scoreboard. Those two guys are pretty good players, man.
They could. Don't you got some size on the Hurley brothers? They're both midgets. I mean,
right? Trav and I both are probably around 6 foot ish. So,
oh wow.
I don't know what the actual height is of the.
Oh yeah.
I'm about 6'1". Trav's probably similar, but I don't know how much of a height advantage we'd have there, Jason. But that's a creative question. I love it. And obviously, those two guys are super fiery and have had a lot of success as players and coaches.
I'm gonna admit when I see bald white guys, I think tall. Because you got to be tall to be white and go bald. You got to be tall and have that confidence. So I figured you were like 6'2", 6'3". I'm dead wrong. You just got that Michael Jordan confidence, so you just shaved.
Yeah.
Anyway, John, thank you so much.
Jason, appreciate you having us on. And hey, behind you there, is that a picture? Is that an Earth, Wind, and Fire picture?
Yes, sir,
behind
it
you?
is. It is.
So
Earth,
that's my favorite. If I could pick one R&B or soul band, that's who I would pick. I listen to them frequently, so I noticed it right away behind your left shoulder.
Yep, it's the reasons that you're here.
I love it.
Because you're 17-1. And they're the best basketball. You and your brother, the best basketball story going right now. Thank you so much, John.
Hey, appreciate you, Jason. Thanks for having us on.
Appreciate you guys. All right, that's John Groce. We've had both the brothers on, the Clegangs. You guys that watch Game of Thrones, you'll know what I'm talking about. Thank you guys. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time on Fearless.